Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Sousa, and I am sitting here with Dr. Ashley Dial of Antler and Ash. I'm representing my own company, Little Red Reverberations, and we are just about to co facilitate our second retreat together at Ashley's property, Antler and Ash, where we are going to be doing a women's soul tending retreat. Just to kind of ground everyone, we're going to share a little bit with you today. Of course, giving you all of the juicy details of that retreat. We want to talk a little bit about our shared background in depth psychology. We did our grad school together, and yeah, we just want to invite you really into this and to get into it with us. And one of the things that we have been exploring together is, these kind of retreats. These are a real opportunity for self-development and personal reflection and intention building. And, obviously there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of different ways that we can do this kind of work. But I kind of want to open up the question to you, Ashley. What do you think is so special and so urgent about doing this work in community with women?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was thinking earlier today about our last retreat that was in the freezing cold weather. And I mean, below freezing temps. And we had a group of, I think there was 15 of us, right? And what came to mind was the image of our campfire.
Mm.
And that first night in being there and everyone setting up camp and us getting the fire going, what I realized by the end of the retreat in looking back was that every every woman in the group tended to our campfire, and that campfire was going day and night the entire retreat. And it was just this unsaid um, tending, right, that we all participated in. We didn't have to talk about it. We didn't have to assign, who was taking care of the fire that night or that morning, the next morning. It just was this natural flow that started to happen among us. And so, looking forward to the spring retreat, and we're going to be doing it outside again. It's going to be glamping this time, so a little bit fancier, but of course, we'll still have our campfire. And I was just thinking about this carryover of this tending the fire and us coming together as a community of women and tending our souls together and understanding that this soul tending that we are inviting you into, um, it has to be done within the context of community. It's not something that you can do at home alone, or at least fully, like really dig into it. So I think for me, that's what's so exciting about these retreats is that we're creating community, we're creating spaces to really do this deeper work and for it to be meaningful and sustainable, because we've created that connection within our group of women. So
Yeah.
that's what's exciting for me.
Yeah, I really feel that. And for those of you who were there, that was some intense personal growth work, just in the sort of physical facing the elements sense. And there was some really beautiful emotional connections and development work that came from it. And I'm glad that you're kind of reflecting on that past one as we're looking forward to going into the next one, because a thing that I noticed too is that this work that we are asking of ourselves and asking of one another, um, it's it's challenging, and it's a little bit scary. And what I felt, really in the last retreat is that there's this real opportunity in these safe small spaces to practice,
Mm,
and I think that's what's
mhm,
so important about this group work, is that there's this opportunity to go to these deep spaces and name your desires and name your intentions and
mhm.
release old emotions that are holding you back, and practice them in front of a group that can, really witness you and hold you. And I think it really, that practice gives us the strength, like any practice, just like, a yoga practice gives you better flexibility or balance, or a weightlifting practice gives you better strength. Like, these emotional practices, really give you the practice to go
Yeah.
out and reclaim those parts of yourself when you do go back to the real world.
Yes, I think that's a great point to make, and I think that we have designed this retreat in such an intentional way to not only offer these practical ways of, like you're talking about, like practicing soul tending. We're also wanting to make sure that the women are coming into this retreat very clear about what their intention is, what they
Yeah,
need, what they want to get out of this experience. And then on the back end of it and throughout the retreat also, sprinkling in the integration, right?
yeah,
So a lot of the stuff that we're offering in the itinerary, while it is experiential, some of the co-facilitators that we have coming in that are offering these experiential kind of therapeutic practices, there's a lot of integration that's going to be going on too. So we want to send these women away. We want to send you home, um, not just having an experience. Like you're going to have a real shift.
yeah. I think probably a question that we are gonna get is, what is soul tending? And I think you and I have probably a very similar idea of what that means. Maybe we'll language it a tiny bit differently, but I kind of it's such an exciting phrase to me. Like, it has such, like, depth in it, and it just has such, I don't know, potential for transformation and growth in it, and nourishing. Like, it's such a nourishing
Mhm.
phrase. But what do you mean when you say soul tending? And then maybe I'll give some of my thoughts. I'll riff off of you.
Yeah. So, oh, it's like I said, the last conversation we were having, like every time I think about, um, this idea of soul tending, my mind can tend to wander to different places. So, um, I think it's a lot of times it's helpful to use a metaphor for people to
Yeah,
understand what we mean by soul tending. So, coming back to that concept of tending the fire together, right? Like if you
yeah,
don't tend that fire, it's going to go out and then you're going to be freezing your ass off. So, if you're not listening to that inner voice, if you're not tending to its needs, then you're going to be, you know, left out in the cold. Um, Another way of kind of imagining soul tending is, like if you want to plant a garden, right? There's certain things that you have to do every day to tend to that garden to make sure that it grows and it flourishes and it gives you fruit. And it's the same thing with our soul and our soul's calling. We have to tend to it on a daily basis. And I
yeah.
think a good way for people to access this idea of soul tending also is, like we talked about too, is um, this popular term right now of self care. So we're offering all of these little golden nuggets of self care throughout the retreat as an entry point into what soul tending can look like for people
Yeah,
in a practical, everyday basis.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so, and I love that. I love, like, both of those metaphors, the fire metaphor and the gardening metaphor, because that root of the word tending is attention, but it's not, it isn't just, uh, it is putting our focus and attention on something, but it's the sort of active attention of, you know, giving it your responses, not just having your attention on it, but responding to the needs of that environment, whether the environment is the fire or the garden or our soul. So being responsive to those needs as they come up, so that growth is really not just sort of not just sort of like a forest will, I guess, keep growing, but gardens grow in this different way because we fertilize them and weed them, and then you see the difference in those gardens that have that true gardener who is being constantly responsive. And I think maybe this is a good time to segue, because I think what's been really exciting for me about our last retreat, and even more exciting for me about this upcoming retreat, because we really learned a lot in the in the last time. And I think we learned that our styles of work go really well together, and they really complement one another. And I think we learned some great things, so that this this retreat that we're offering is I felt like the last one was great, and I feel like this one is just next level.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm excited to facilitate this retreat with you, but I also am I just want to go to this retreat. I
Yeah,
want to be
yes.
on this retreat. um and you know the medicine wheel activity that you are bringing back, and that we will be unfolding with these women, which is a lot about going towards what they want, and releasing things that you don't want. This is it's a ritual, it's an
Mhm,
activity of tending, and
mhm,
this embodiment work that I will be offering is a real opportunity to kind of deepen all of those things that happen in the medicine wheel, which is to hone in on our emotions around our intentions,
mhm.
and give them that tending, and develop our sense perceptions around them, so that really ultimately our instincts and our intuitions around those desires and intentions can develop. And again, it's just a practice, it's just
Yeah.
practicing these things. But I kind of want to hear you just I mean, I know what it is, but I want to hear you speak a little bit to um the medicine wheel, and what that work is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a sweet and ritual that has such deep potential to it.
Mhm. I was giving a riding lesson. I think it was, I don't know, 2 weekends ago, and I had this little girl up on a horse, and I was leading her around in this area right over here where I have another medicine wheel set up, and she noticed it on the ground, and she asked me what it was, and I said, "Well, let me think about this for a minute." And like, how do I explain this to a kid, what is this? And my answer was, essentially, it's a game for grown-ups. So it's something that you can participate in and enter into, in a lighthearted, playful way. Um, but it does have serious implications for the way that we are processing things in our lives. So the medicine wheel is designed to be this processing tool for us where we can essentially externalize, things that we might be grappling with, things that we're struggling with, things that we're processing. um, and it really provides us this opportunity to see these things outside of ourselves so that we can gain a different perspective, ask some different questions, be witnessed by everyone else participating, give these gives these things that are happening within us some space to
Yeah.
process kind of outside of ourselves, without our own interference.
Yep.
Um, it's very much designed to help us get even more clear on the intention that we're bringing in, and help us get even more clear on the things that are holding us back from
Yeah.
stepping into that intention. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful process. It works 100% of the time.
I love that. I love that you said it's an adult game because it is a game. Like there's, and what my offerings are as well. These are games. They're playful. And the purpose is sort of, as you said, it's really to bypass our sort of linear thinking functions,
Mhm.
that's where our judgments lie. And that's where our like our cultural traps, the cultural programming, our early childhood programming, our inner judge, our fear, that all of those lie in those thinking processes, those cognitive processes, because it becomes all about what we think about
Mm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so special and unique about these games and about kind of what we're doing is because it bypasses that judge because it's just play. It's
Yeah.
just being playful. It's just being, spontaneous and open to the information and guidance that kind of wants to come up through the
Mm.
imagination and through the emotions and through our instincts and through our intuition. But you are that free prefrontal cortex part of the brain kind of ultimately gets a little tricked in a good way
Yeah, yeah.
because because throughout the games and throughout the ritual that you offer, there's this opportunity for spontaneity,
Mhm.
where we as women and participants and even us as leaders have the opportunity to surprise ourselves and to be to be better witnesses to our
Mhm.
own inner desires and emotions and intentions. And this time, I did some games last time and we had a lot of fun with them, but this time I've really honed those games that I'm doing. And I should say to everyone, my background is as, not just my master's in depth psychology, but as a 20 years theater educator. So this is really like my joy and my passion point. Uh, but the games that I really am going to offer this time really are going to use everything that Ashley is going to be offering you in that medicine wheel. And the games that we're going to do are going to be just a really fun way to go deeper into those intentions, both into the intentions and into the things that we want to release and let go of. And we're going to be able to see through the games, like what are those sticking points, and we're going to put some images to them, and we're going to kind of play with them and make fun of them and invite them, sort of as theatrical image sort of presences into our space with us and just be a little playful with them because for me I think the fact that like we all have these like deep desires for ourselves, whether the deep desire is for love and finding love, whether the deep desire is to like have a child or start your own business or let go of trauma. These The desires feel so big and personal
Mm.
and they're so important to us, and we have so much emotion attached to them that sometimes they're scary to even process and look at. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of the exciting thing about what we're doing with our retreats is, it's just this it's a little more lighthearted way to get into it than that traditional talk therapy, you know?
Yes. Yeah, well, and I think that's, if you want to give people an understanding of what depth psychology is, right?
Thank
Like
you.
this
Yeah.
this is the practice of it. It's
Yeah.
getting out of that traditional talk therapy model and, this medicalized um, idea and a way of going about healing and our psychology and the way we approach our psychology. And depth psychology is saying there's so many other ways that we can approach our psyche, our soul, and it does not need to be in this one way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, alongside, of course, these transformational practices that you and I are going to be offering, we have a lot of other offerings. We have a lot of other facilitators who are going to be joining us. We have a lot of other modalities and practices that we're going to be offering. And each of them is, I mean, all of these practices that we're offering, these are all embodied practices. So one,
Mm.
I think that is so cool. But two, I just, can you go through and just share, who else is going to be with us? What else are we offering? And what are these women having this opportunity to receive?
Oh my gosh, yes. So when I was finalizing the itinerary and plugging everybody in, um, I was, yes, very much thinking like, well, I am signing up for this. I'm going to this retreat. This looks amazing. So we have so many things, and I probably can't even name them all. But we're going to do a healing sound bath, and I'm so looking forward to that. I've never experienced a full-on sound bath healing. So we have Casey Lane, who's coming out of Nashville
Oh
to
my
do
gosh.
that for us.
I'm so excited. I've done one once, and ladies, it's the vibration of these bowls, it like hits you in your spine and like resonates down, like you feel it in your bones, and
Yeah.
it's really awakening, and it really is, it ultimately has the capacity to touch and release a lot of emotions. It's just beautiful to listen to. I mean, it's just musically beautiful.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited about Casey coming. So then we also have we're gonna have two yoga classes, and those are gonna be on the hilltop. And normally when we do those on the hilltop, we're also amongst the free roaming herd of horses out here, so it just doesn't get a whole lot more magical than that. And we're gonna do the yoga classes are gonna be a vinyasa flow, but then we're also gonna do a kundalini class, which we had last time.
Yeah.
And if people aren't familiar with Kundalini yoga, it's a whole other experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
We are going to have Daphne McClintosh. She's doing the Kundalini yoga, and
Yeah.
she's also going to do a meditative yoga nidra session for us.
Wow.
And that's something I have never experienced either.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So those are a couple of the things, and we're also going to do a cold water therapy, cold plunge in the creek,
Yeah.
which I have tested out myself already. And it's going to be warmer than this. It's a little bit chilly today, but um, that's definitely an embodied experience for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
be having Fire Council every
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah.
I know I'm
Yeah.
missing some things, but
Well, well, and I want to say, we heard some of the feedback from last time, and one of the things was like, it's funny because we have this schedule is a lot more packed than our last
Mhm.
schedule, but it's also a lot more intentional than our last scheduling. So it is a lot more packed with things, but we have also built in processing time,
Mhm.
journaling time for women, and self-reflection time. And these fireside councils will be an opportunity to share. Uh, and Ashley, we were talking a little bit before we got on this call because, I do think that we had some women at our last retreat who wanted to come, but felt, right when they arrived, they felt very unsure because they didn't know anyone, and
Mhm.
they felt, that there's always going to be people who are, very outgoing and they're ready to share first, and there are always going to be women who feel more shy and more reluctant, and I kind of just want to reassure those women right now, and I want you to kind of go into what you shared with me about that, and about, you know just the opportunity, and just that, I don't know, that call that you were talking
Mhm.
about to, if you feel reluctant, come.
Yes. So I was saying when we were talking earlier how I've had several women reach out and they're very clear about being drawn to the retreat and really wanting to come and participate and feeling like these are the offerings that they need right now, but also being, feeling very held back by their social anxiety and a lot of other, specific anxieties coming up for them. Like one woman was very anxious about the idea of sharing space in the communal tent, right? So all these anxieties around doing something that is, going to make us a little bit uncomfortable, maybe. But that's okay. Like it's okay. You're gonna be okay. We promise you're gonna be okay, and you're gonna be better than okay, because what happens when you do challenge yourself and you decide to step into those uncomfortable spaces, inevitably you realize that you're so much more capable of overcoming those anxieties than you previously thought.
Yeah.
And that's a huge takeaway,
Yeah.
to really step into something that is, a challenge for you and navigate it and come out on the other side.
Yeah.
So, yes, for those that are feeling called to this, but maybe, have some anxieties holding them back, bring them with you
Yeah.
and we'll sort them out.
Yeah, we'll sort them out. Yeah, and I think, one of the really beautiful things that I saw at our last retreat was just women really being there for other women, and there was just just like with the fire tending, that you said that there was, a real natural flow. There was a real natural flow of women caretaking one another,
Mhm.
women, consoling one another when there were tears, women drawing one another out with conversation and stories and questions, and older mothers just sharing wisdom with younger mothers,
Mm,
and you know uh, middle-aged women sharing their, experiences and compassion with very young women, and I just felt like there was just a real constant just give and take, and a real sense of community building. It's kind of pretty incredible how fast that community feeling develops over the course of the weekend. I mean, I really kind of felt like
mhm, yeah.
by the end of that first night, like it was solidified. Like we were a group together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think, Amy, a term that you use often in talking about, this work is you often refer to this work as being an antidote, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how, this bigger purpose of us creating community is an antidote, right? It's an antidote for the self-isolation and for these spaces that we've been confined to for way too long now. So rebuilding those connections, getting comfortable in other groups of women, it's good medicine.
Yeah, it really is, I'm sure you women will hear me talk a lot about that. I talk a lot about embodiment. That's like one of my things. And yeah, because I think that it is an antidote because we live in a culture that is very dissociated in a lot of ways. It's dissociated by kind of the fast flow of social media. It's dissociated in the literal isolation that we've felt over the last few years. And it's dissociated from our own senses and instincts and sense perceptions and each other,
Mhm.
community. And I think this is the antidote. It's the healing, and it's the medicine that we need. And ultimately it's a real opportunity for us to develop those strengths to really be then the people that bring this to others.
Yeah.
There's a myth. You hear a little bit about it in sort of esoteric places like astrology, but you also hear about it in mythology. We learned a little bit about it in our depth psychology, but there's a character called Chiron, and his whole purpose is to be the wounded healer. So his myth is, where he is hurt, where he experienced trauma, where he experienced pain, then turns and becomes the gift. It becomes
Mhm.
the actual teaching point of the medicine that he then offers back to the world. And I do think that very directly relates to that medicine wheel that you're
Yeah.
offering, Ashley. And I think it is, really it's the opportunity in the work, because I think these self-development, it's we do it in community because it's bigger than us as individuals. I don't just work on myself. I mean, I work on myself to be the best version of myself that I can be, but but really ultimately it is bigger than me. It's
Mhm.
bigger than
Yeah.
us as individuals. We do this work so that we can bring this medicine back to our own communities, so that we
Mhm.
can, take these wounds that we might have, or these desires that we might have, or these intentions that we might have. And when we embody them, when we stand in our power, when we stand in our wholeness, when we stand in our own integrity of being, this is the medicine that we bring back. And we have heard from people that those in their lives have been affected by this work that we do. This personal work that we do, it affects other people.
Mhm. Yes, I was out with my sister several weeks ago. She was here visiting, and we were leaving this art walk that we were at, and someone yells at me from across the parking lot and says, it was this man, and he said, "Are you the woman that took my wife camping in the freezing cold?"
Is that you?
And I'm like, yes, I'm sure that must be me." And so anyway, it was the husband of one of the women who came to the retreat, and she just went on and on about how amazing the experience was for her, because it showed her that she could do something like that.
Yeah.
And so she just had this like totally newfound confidence in herself, knowing that she, did something that was uncomfortable, and she came out on the other end of it, and was almost kind of like rubbing it in people's faces, like, well, I don't know if you could do that, you know, but I did. So that was
Yeah.
a really yeah, unexpected testimony.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. Uh, well, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to share before we, I don't know, maybe wrap this up a little bit? I want to remind women who are watching this and who may want to come to please contact either one of us. For everyone who's watching, down in the notes for the show, there is a link to the retreat for more information. There's a link to Ashley's website. There's a link to my own website, so you can find out a little bit more about us. You are welcome to reach out to either one of us to find out more about it. We're going to, I just want to say one other thing that we're offering is this is about, a honed, contained space. So even before this retreat, we're offering a call with all of our participants. So you'll have an opportunity to sort of see one another, meet one another, meet with us on a Zoom call beforehand. And really, as soon as you sign up, that's the beginning of the work.
Mhm.
That's when the work begins. But we're going to offer this call. We'll lead you through this 4-day retreat. And then we are also offering integration work, because the real work, I mean, the retreat is the fun part of the work. That's the fun, exciting part where we're all together and in community. But ultimately, the real work is what you take back with you into your real lives. So we want to really hold and tend you through that process so that you can really integrate everything that you learn. You can take that away with you and really find a way to practice these things in your own life. So
Yeah.
I wanted to just reiterate that part of it. And I don't know, Ashley, if you want to reiterate anything. I want to point out that where Ashley is
Mhm.
sitting is the beautiful location of this retreat. It is friggin' idyllic. It is magical.
Yeah, I'll touch on that very quickly. Yeah, you can see the barn back there, and then so it's 93 acres out here of just beautiful rolling hills. We're going to be camping out in what we call the twin pastures, which is in this little hollow of the property with the creek running through, and there's some ponds back there, and it just has got this really amazing, good vibe. Um, and I think the last thing I'd like to say is that, if you feel like you are drawn to come to this retreat, don't hesitate to sign up. And it's natural, but if you find yourself making excuses as to why you can't do something like this that you're drawn to, kind of catch yourself in that moment and allow yourself to follow that calling. We are filling up. I'm
Yep.
expecting a couple more signups today. So if you're drawn to do this, we really invite you to act on that little inner voice
Yeah.
and sign up and be a part of this with us.
Yeah. It is very intimate. There's only 15 spaces that we have. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah, it's a
Hmm.
really intimate small group, and yeah, we would love to fill every single spot, but yeah, they are filling up.
Thank
Um,
you for hosting this, Amy.
Yay, thank you for being there. I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do this whole thing again in warmer weather.
In warmer weather. Yes. That will be nice.
You are that woman. You did this to me. Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining us and for watching. And we hope to absolutely see you at this upcoming retreat. And if not, then I hope we lit a little spark in you, and we'll see you at the next one.
Yes.
All right. Bye all.